Hi guys, when I started this channel some years ago, I was sceptical of Scots who called Labour and the Conservatives two cheeks of the same behind. But we've seen for a long time how both parties operate in a way to keep the SNP out of councils and parliamentary seats where possible. For anyone who may be in doubt, the leader of the Scottish Tories, Douglas Ross, advocated for tactical voting between Labour and the Conservatives to profit from the current problems facing the SNP. For people south of the border, this should be shocking.
Oh, well, I think the response I've seen already in my mailbox today, looking at my emails, is people want to see this. They want where voters don't support the SNP and them continuing in power and not focusing on the priorities of people across Scotland. They want to hear party leaders urging people to get behind their party in the seats where they are the strongest party. And that's what I've been saying here in Murray and in other parts of the country where we hold these seats and where we're looking to make gains. And of course, Jackie Bailey's response comes from a party that, when I last suggested this back in 2021, had a similar response, and Scottish Labour lost seats and votes. The Scottish Conservatives maintained our 31 and we increased our votes for the Holyrood election. So I think that tells you everything the public needs to know. But I agree with Jackie Bailey. Ultimately, it is up to the public. They will decide. And at the moment, we are hearing the public crying out for a change to the status quo here in Scotland. They don't want to see the SNP in power. They want to see politicians representing them that reflect their views, not simply obsessed over independence.
Well, I'm really sorry to go back and labour the point, but you basically just encouraged tactical voting again. You just said they want to see leaders of their party encourage people to vote for that party where they are strongest.
Yes, and that's what I've said.
Not in every seat where you might well lose, but you would help the SNP by pushing your Conservative voters to vote for Conservative.
Well, again, I answered this earlier when I said it's up to other parties to decide how they approach the election in the seats they are targeting. I'm telling you, in the seats that the Scottish Conservatives are targeting, we can maintain what we've got. We can make gains here in Scotland. If supporters
so what about
of other
the ones
parties,
you're not targeting? How many are you targeting?
Well, again,
all of them?
You asked me about numbers earlier, and I said I wasn't going to give away any numbers.
Are you targeting every single seat? Because if you're not, your implication is that you're happy for people to vote Labour in the ones you're not targeting.
My implication is very clear that, as I said in black and white in the Telegraph, I will always urge Scottish Conservative voters to vote Scottish Conservative. But in seats that we hold and we can gain, then people know that if they unite behind us, a Scottish Conservative MP can see an SNP MP removed and the focus then away from it.
There you have it. There you have it. A Tory member of the Scottish Parliament and an MP is telling his supporters, look, if there isn't a chance for one of our Tories to win, back the Labour Party, because then we can keep the SNP out. And Jackie Daly from the Labour Party is singing from the same hymn sheet, telling her supporters, people who back the Labour Party in Scotland, actually, if there's a chance to keep the SNP out, vote for a Tory. There you have it. Tactical voting against the SNP. And what's so shocking about this, it's not shocking for people in Scotland, but it should be shocking for everyone else. South of the border, in Westminster, day in, day out, you have Labour MPs and Labour supporters saying, we need to get the Tories out. The Tories, 13 years of absolute disaster. The Tories are anti-NHS. They're responsible for this cost of living crisis. This Brexit deal, not Brexit itself, but this Brexit deal is a disaster. We need to get the Tories out and we need to replace them with the Labour Party. We need a Labour government to undo the damage that the Tories have inflicted upon the United Kingdom. So, in England, Tories are bad, but in Scotland, not so bad, because the SNP are worse. Just think about that for a moment. How can a party, the Labour Party in particular here, forget about the Tories, because the Tories will just do whatever is beneficial to them. But the Labour Party, a United Kingdom party, is telling people in England, vote tactically to get rid of the Tories because, they're ideologically opposed to us. But in Scotland, vote Tory to keep out the SNP. Why? Is it because of independence? Because I don't believe that's the case. But, you know, if you go to a local level, on a council level, voting Tory or voting SNP doesn't make any difference on a constitutional level, because the councils don't influence that. The councils have no say on whether Scotland remains part of the United Kingdom or not. But the tactical voting to keep out the SNP on a council level happens. What's the excuse for that? Like, once again, for people in Scotland, this is, you know, normality. The Tories and the Labour Party work together to keep the SNP out. Sometimes they succeed, sometimes they fail. But down in Westminster and the rest of the United Kingdom, apart from Scotland, but in England and in Wales, you have the Tories and the Labour Party at each other's throats. But the opposites. But in Scotland, they're working together. And here you have Douglas Ross advocating for tactical voting to keep the SNP out. As I said, if this was on a council level, you can't make the argument about independence. But the SNP and the Labour Party are more aligned on social issues. You know, funding the NHS, on issues of immigration, public finances. All of these things, you know, generally the Labour Party and the SNP are singing from the same hymn sheet in Scotland. But when it comes to telling people how to vote, the Labour Party would prefer to have Tories in charge. I would love to hear an excuse for that. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.